and welcome tonight. Massive flood ravages Joan local government area of Edo State, causing extensive damage and destruction. 25 people are killed, with over 4,000 others rendered homeless. Resident doctors in Benue and Plateau states stage peaceful protests, call on government and security agencies to intensify efforts to secure the release of Dr. Ganiat Bukwola. Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetokun condemns the abduction of 20 medical students in Otukpo in Benue State, says police is determined to secure their release. And Ukrainian troops say they are strengthening positions in captured territory in Russia and expanding further.
Now, in business news, Nigeria's FX reserves dropped by about $301 million to $36.53 billion following the CBN's intervention in the market.
And on sports news tonight, Arne Slot makes perfect start to his Liverpool reign with a 2-0 victory over Premier League new boys Ipswich Town.
We begin tonight in Jigawa State, where the death toll from flooding has risen to 25 and over 4,000 persons rendered homeless. Jaun community is the latest local government to be affected. Our correspondent, Sadiq Ilyasu, now reports.
3 days of heavy rainfall have brought Jaun local government to its knees as floodwaters take over most parts of the town. Awol Inwe is a tailor, but water has now taken over his shop, forcing him to close his business.
We need the government to come to our rescue. We shut down our businesses, and you know the hardship everyone is facing these days.
We are here in Jahun local government area of Jigawa State, northwest Nigeria. Jahun is the latest community to have been submerged in water. According to the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, since the beginning of this flooding, 25 people have so far died. And the people here in Jahun are desperately seeking for help. The owners of this house are now forced to live in a public school building. They try to salvage whatever is left from their belongings under the rubble. Hassana Isa, a mother living with disability, narrates how her eldest son rescued her from the flood.
I am crippled, so I couldn't run when the water came, and our house was about to fall. I dragged myself towards the door, and fortunately, my son came and rescued me.
Malam Abba Sabo is a resident of the community, and he believes that a temporary solution is not an option for the perennial flooding in the community.
That he had a talk with the Ecological Fund where he has secured the contract for the evacuation of the water. But as I've said, officially or unofficially, we are yet to see or hear anything about that. How wish this can become a reality. If we have that, I believe this problem will be permanently be over. And I hope and pray the executive governor will use all his power and resources, his time, and see to the end of this problem.
Meanwhile, the state governor In his speech during the distribution of food items to the less privileged in the state, condoled with the relatives of those who lost their lives in the flood.
We must sincerely condole families that lost their loved ones. We commensurate with all those affected in one way or the other. But still praying for bumper harvest throughout the state. We also pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will compensate all those affected.
The victims now wait to see what long-term solutions will be implemented to prevent future tragedy. Sadiq Ilyasu, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, in Yobe, the State Emergency Management Agency has recorded 21 deaths between April and August this year, resulting from heavy rainfall that caused flooding in 256 communities and villages in 16 out of the 17 local government areas of the state. The Executive Secretary of the agency, Mohammed Goje, who exclusively disclosed this to Channels Television via telephone conversation, said an approximation of 28,987 individuals with a total of 14,439 rooms, facility and farms have been affected. A database obtained from the agency further revealed that 201 persons were injured, while 8,277 were households affected during the period under review. Mr. Goje explained that the agency is currently conducting validation, registration, and concurrently providing emergency first aid line and hygiene kits to prevent the victims from contacting cholera, malaria, as well as evacuating other victims and providing them with food support, especially for those in the temporary camps. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency had earlier predicted that 8 out of the 17 local government areas of the state will witness possible flooding between May and September this year. Still talking floods in Kebbi State, a bridge connecting 20 communities in Mayama local government area has been damaged following heavy rainfall from Thursday to this morning. The affected communities have been cut off as the bridge, which is a vital transportation link, was washed away by the flood waters, leaving residents stranded. The collapse has disrupted economic activities, social interactions, and access to essential services in the affected villages. Although youths in the area have embarked on community service to create an alternative route to ease the flow of people and goods, especially farming products, residents are urging government to expedite repairs and reconstruction of the bridge.
This culvert, it links many villages in my area, like Mayalo, Sambawa, Gumbenkure, Gamjeji, Gumawa, Gundongawa, about 20 something of them villages. It's only this road they are passing to Jega Okebi. Except this one, there's no way to follow. So we are pleading to government to take action, serious action, emergency action to help our people here.
Since yesterday, by the special grace of God, the head of the district of Mayalo, he's the one that sent me the picture in my telephone as message across. He's been doing his best, mobilizing the youth and the people of that community to try to do some access roads so that people can be using it for now before the government come. You can see the job is going there, and myself, we are here to join hands together to assist so that we can get a little place that our people can be using to go to reach their various communities.
Residents of Ayetoro, a coastal town in Ilaja local government area of Edo State, have again appealed to government at all levels to come to their aid in addressing the ocean incursion that has taken over a large part of its landmass. According to the traditional ruler of the town, the situation is beyond the community, and so they are appealing to government to construct an embankment to protect the shores of the town from further incursion.
Ayetoro used to be a flourishing coastal community in the oil-rich Ilaje local government area of Ondo State in southwest Nigeria. The happy city, as it's called, is now a shadow of itself. The tide began turning in the negative about 20 years ago when the Atlantic Ocean started reclaiming its landmass at an alarming rate. Residents lament that over 70% of the landmass has been reclaimed by the ocean, with over 700 buildings lost in the process. Many of them have been forced to keep moving away from the ocean, while others have become refugees in their own homeland. Although no life has been lost, properties have been affected by the ocean surge. The traditional ruler of the community narrates the enormous damage done by the ocean and appeals to the relevant authorities for assistance to the people.
I use this medium to cry to the state, the federal and the international community to come to our aid. It is a technology that is doable. It has been done in so many parts of the world and even in many parts of Nigeria. We only need commitment and understanding of this unique terrain to be able to come to our aid and do the embankment.
Residents also pour out their hearts on the matter.
Almost about 80% of the houses has gone, and almost about 90 to 95% of our land has gone. Even our factories, we have several factories here, all is gone.
Everything we have is spoiled, everything. Our house, remove it, drag it to the sea. Before you know, your wardrobe with all your amenities will be on the sea water. And this sea water is very bad.
For the past 20 years, we have been experiencing a turbulent ocean surge that has wreaked havoc on the community, destroying properties worth billions of naira and more than 700 residential houses, including schools, hospital and maternity center. And people are now living in abject poverty now because economic activities of the people have been paralyzed.
In response to the appeal of the community, the state government's delegation and officials of the State Emergency Management Agency, SEMA, as well as the National Emergency Management Agency, visit the area to assess the situation.
The community has written to the government seeking for assistance, and that's why we're here to assess the situation. So we are going to go back to the government with what we have seen, and I know pretty sure that the governor will respond, and will come back with relief materials for the people.
Aoru is just one of the many communities in Elaje local government area of Ondo State threatened by ocean surge.
The Nigerian Navy is charging its commanding officers to beef up maritime security within the nation's territorial waters. The representative of the Flag Officer commanding Eastern Naval Command gave this charge to the commanders in Port Harcourt during a workshop for them themed Leadership and Operational Excellence, Empowering Commanding Officers for Effective Command. In a welcome address, the hosts encouraged the commanders to share their experiences with one another for better synergy.
Maritime security operation is of paramount importance in today's interconnected littoral nations, especially developing nations like ours, with various explorable economic activities for national development. Therefore, the protection of our national maritime environment against maritime crimes, such as piracy, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, crude oil theft, illegal refinery, among others, including ensuring safe and secure passage of international trade, rests on your operational capabilities as commanding officers of seagoing ships.
This workshop is for commanding officers. They are the linchpin, they are the most important elements and the leaders at the level, what we will call the tactical level, where actual operations are carried out. Because if you look at our rules, anti-piracy, anti-crude oil theft, and all other things, the people that lead the team that actually implement these important rules in preserving the territorial integrity of the country from the seaward side and from ensuring that all illegalities in our maritime waters are checked are these people. So we have to continue to sensitize them. We have to refresh them on their rules. We have to allow them also to come in and ask questions, because of course when you are dealing with criminals and criminality, there are always gray areas that we might need to clear. So at this point in time, we are having this workshop to do what? To sharpen the edge, to sharpen the tip of the spear of the Nigerian Army, which are the commanding officers.
In part 2 after the break, troops of Operation Hadarin Daji neutralized bandits in Kaura Namoda local government area of Zamfara State. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Massive flood ravages Jaun local government area of Jigawa State, causing extensive damage and destruction as 25 people are killed with over 4,000 others rendered homeless. Resident doctors in Benue and Plateau State staged peaceful protest, call on government and security agencies to intensify efforts to secure the release of Dr. Ganiat Bukwola. Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetoku condemns the abduction of 20 medical students in Otukpo in Benue State, says police is determined to secure their release. And Ukrainian troops say they are strengthening positions in captured territory in Russia and expanding further. President Bola Tinubu has issued a directive to reduce the size of Nigeria's official delegation to the forthcoming United Nations General Assembly meetings in New York, United States. According to the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the President, this directive was disclosed by the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, in Abuja during a one-day retreat organized by the State House Management for heads of government agencies under its supervision. Addressing participants at the retreat, the Chief of Staff said the decision to streamline Nigeria's delegation to the 79th session of UNGA, or the UNGA, in September as part of the administration's commitment to ensure prudent management of resources and reduce the cost of governance. The Chief of Staff urged heads of agencies at the retreat to comply strictly, adding that the President is listening to the concerns of Nigerians as expressed in the recent protest and is committed to addressing them diligently. Resident doctors in Benue and Plateau States are protesting the abduction of one of their colleagues in Kaduna some 7 months ago. Now, residents of the association in the two states led a peaceful protest asking the government and security agencies to intensify efforts for the release of Dr. Ganiat Bukwola.
Medical practitioners at the University of Jos Teaching Hospital are embarking on this peaceful protest within the hospital premises to call for the release of their colleague, Dr. Ganiat Bukwola, who was kidnapped in Kaduna State in December 2023. Carrying placards with boldly written messages, these medical doctors communicate their demands. The protesting doctors comprise members of the National Association of Resident Doctors and the Medical Women's Association of Nigeria.
All we know is that we're very optimistic that she's alive and we want her back. I think that's the most important thing. So that's just the reason why. We're very sure she's alive. She's alive.
She's somebody's daughter. She's a wife. She's a mother. She's a sister. She's a friend. So I'm calling on the government to do something. It is not easy. I'm very sure it is not easy for the family. It is not easy for me as a woman because I can only imagine what she's going through.
In a related development, members of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors at the Federal Medical Center, Makurdi, the Benue State capital, are threatening to down tools if their colleague, Dr. Ganiat Bukwola, is not released before the 26th of August 2024. They are not encouraged by the government's inability to rescue their colleague.
We understand that she's alive. We've been having some form of communication with her, and that is the only thing that gladdens her heart, that she's not harmed yet. And we are hoping by the grace of God that within the shortest possible time she'll be released hale and hearty. And like we said earlier, if she's not, we may have no other option but to take other routes. And that may be by shutting down completely.
I can only imagine what she's going through. Dr. Ganirat is a mother, she's a wife, she's a doctor. She has been through this and nothing has been done about it. We are here to cry to the public. We are crying to the government to please, they should please help us and release Dr. Ganirat.
Dr. Ganiat Popola was abducted at her official residence at the National Eye Center in Edo State on December 27, 2023.
The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has condemned the kidnapping of 20 medical students who were abducted in Otukpo, Bayo State, while on their way to the annual convention of the Federation of Catholic Medical and Dental Students in Enugu. In a statement signed by the Force Public Relations Officer, ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi, the IGP has ordered the prompt deployment of a substantial number of human and technical resources to augment the manpower of the Benue State Command in order to ensure the swift rescue of the students. The statement adds that the initiative encompasses the mobilization of additional tactical units from the FID-STS and FID-IRT, the deployment of advanced helicopters and drones, as well as the use of specialized tactical vehicles that will facilitate the search and secure the safe return of the victims. The statement further adds that the IGP is reiterating the zeal of the police to leave no stone unturned in the pursuit of the perpetrators and others alike. Meanwhile, Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia has directed security agencies in the state to intensify efforts and ensure the safe release of the 20 medical students that were abducted in the state. He condemned in strong terms the abduction of the student doctors from the University of Maiduguri and University of Jos. The students were ambushed and taken away by gunmen along Otukpo-Enugu Highway while on their way to the Federation of Catholic Medical and Dental Students annual convention in Enugu State on Thursday evening. Governor Alia, in a statement by his Chief Press Secretary, Tersu Kula, warned the criminal elements operating within the state to find another base, as his administration will intensify efforts to stamp out all forms of criminality in Benue. Meanwhile, abductors of students from the College of Health Sciences of the University of Jos have established contacts with families of the students and authorities of the institution. The abductors are seeking a ransom of 50 million naira to secure the release of the students. This was confirmed in the statement signed by the Public Relations Officer of the institution, Mr. Deniro Adebanjo. He also urged the entire university community to remain calm and keep faith as security operatives are fully engaged in addressing the situation. 13 students from the College of Health Sciences and the University of Jos who were traveling to Enugu for the annual convention of the Federation of Catholic Medical and Dental Students were abducted on Thursday evening along the Otukpo-Enugu Highway. Troops of 1 Brigade Nigerian Army Guzo and Sector 1 Joint Task Force Northwest Operation Hadarin Daji have neutralized 2 bandits during a fierce encounter at Ungwa Serikin Musulumi area in Kauranamoda local government of Zamfara State. In a statement by the Acting Director of Army Public Relations of the Brigade, Lieutenant Suleiman Omale, said the troops under the directives of the Commander, Brigadier General T.M. Operom, successfully neutralized the 2 bandits while acting on credible intelligence. According to the statement, the troops swiftly responded to reports of violent extremist activities in the area, and upon arrival, they engaged the elements in a gun duel, effectively killing 2 of the extremists, with others forced to withdraw in disarray. Following the engagement, the troops then conducted a mop-up operation, during which they recovered 1 operational motorcycle belonging to the violent extremists. Lieutenant Omale adds that the success of the operation indicates the ongoing commitment of Operation Hadarin Daji to rid Zamfara State of banditry and restore peace and security to the region. Former Governor of Osun State, Ibikunle Amosu, has asked the federal government to refrain from negotiating with the Chinese firm Zhongshan Fucheng Industrial Investment Company Limited over the seizure of the country's presidential jets. Senator Amosu, in a statement, said the allegations that his administration sent police officers to harass and intimidate the officials of the Chinese firm are not true. Senator Amosu explained that shortly after his assumption of office in 2011, 2 Chinese firms, China Africa Investment FXE and Zhongfu International Investment FXE, started tussling over the management rights of the Guangdong Free Trade Zone. The former Osun State governor said the tussle between the two companies grounded seamless business activities and even threatened public peace and safety within the zone and neighboring communities, adding that there were claims and counterclaims on who was the rightful manager of the free trade zone. According to him, Nigeria should not give Zhongfu International Investment FXC any listening ear, as doing so will amount to indulging and encouraging an unlawful entity without locus standi to appropriate the nation's common patrimony. It therefore suggests that the matter of Zhongfu International Investment should be treated the way Nigeria treated the P&ID case, as there is no basis for negotiation. The Edo State government says it has made available over 50,000 hectares of land for oil palm and cash crops production as the second phase of the Edo State oil palm program ESOP kicks off. Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki confirmed this during the tour of farmlands acquired by new investors into the ESOP program located in Orionwan and Oma West local government areas of the state.
Work is in progress. This 4.5-kilometer road reconstruction project in Ugu, Orionwan local government area, is one of the gains of the Edo State Oil Palm Program ESOP. This project, being undertaken by one of the oil palm investors, is based on the state's tax credit scheme. Revenue accruing to the state government by way of tax is to be used to fund projects directly. This flag-off of the roads projects coincides with the launch of Phase 2 of the ESOP program. Next on the itinerary of Governor Godwin Obaseki is a visit to a nearby oil palm plantation, a new addition to the ESOP program. Mr. Obaseki says the state government is committed to the success of investments in the oil palm sector, noting that some of the benefits will even come sooner than later.
Reduce the risk which the investor will face. That is the purpose of the oil palm program and the purpose of government intervening in the oil palm program. It also supports food production. So between now and when these plants become big trees, the land is still available to mix crop.
Mr. Obaseki says his administration, since assuming office in 2016, has been making efforts to recover forest reserves lost to deforestation. According to him, the ESOP program has addressed most of the issues faced in bringing investors, including amicable settlements with the host communities.
What Edo State inherited was in excess of 620,000 hectares of farm and forest land. Today, quite a lot of that land has been deforested and de-reserved. So after that audit, we then made available some of this deforested land and available for investments in crops like oil palm.
The Edo Oil Palm Program ESOP was launched in 2019 with the objective of de-risking the oil palm value chain, with the state government providing the land for investors. According to the government, so far, over 120,000 hectares of land has been made available for oil palm investments in Edo State.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's FX reserves dropped by about $301 million to $36.53 billion following the CBN's intervention in the market. That's on Business News. Do join us again. Welcome back. The people of Ogoniland in Rivers State have received an assurance that the House of Representatives will ensure that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited contributes its quota in furthering the Ogoni cleanup, remediation and restoration projects. This assurance comes from the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Host Communities, Mr. Dum Deko. Our correspondent, Deborah Agbalama, reports.
As part of their oversight functions, members of the House of Representatives are in Ogoniland to, among other things, assess the progress of the cleanup project spearheaded by the Hydrocarbon Pollution Remediation Project, HYPREP, and to interact with host communities. On day one, House members led by the chairman of the Host Communities Committee visited active ongoing remediation sites in Ogale, Eleme local government area of River State, as well as a completed water scheme in Wogo, Tai LGA. They also stopped by at the Ogoni Specialist Hospital, Tai LGA, and the Cottage Hospital, amongst others. At some point, the lawmakers visited a remediation site in Ogale where some community members had barricaded the site, obstructing the ongoing work. On day two, the committee members also took time out across the water to visit the mangrove seedlings planting project site, as well as HYPREP's flagship environmental research center located in Wiakara, Kana LGA. After a tour of duty, the chairman of the committee shared their thoughts on the project so far.
This will be a hub for international research, and you will find out that this will automatically place this project on the international map. And I believe that with even the local components of training artisans and all of that skills that we provided, it will go a long way in ensuring that the sufferings of the Ogoni people are alleviated.
On his part, the project coordinator of HYPREP gave insights into the ongoing project, while also calling for laws to solidify MOUs between the host communities and HYPREP.
To be a hub for international research, where multidisciplinary innovative research in environmental remediation and restoration will take place. It's also a center that has a faculty of vocational skill acquisition, where we'll be training the use of the Niger data and the use of Nigeria in different key areas.
Next, the House of Representatives contingent held a stakeholders meeting with host communities. Topping the agenda here are suggestions on legislations to make HYPREP an agency to strengthen its operation.
Rely on you should try and step up this aspect of providing a bill to protect all of us. HYPREP activity is not going to stop here. It must be protected, and because there's a bill, no arbitrary decision will be taken.
The meeting came to a close with the presentation of a resolution by all Ogoni youth groups who were present to the legislators, asking for an end to the continuous change of project coordinators before the expiration of the statutory 4-year tenure, as they believe this causes setback to the remediation exercise in Ogoni land. Deborah Balama, Channels Television News.
The Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has commissioned the Mushin flyover built along the Red Line rail corridor. Speaking at the event, Governor Sanwo-Olu says he has fulfilled the promise made to the people, and with the completion of the overpass, pedestrian and vehicular interference will be eliminated on the rail tracks.
This is the 5th flyover constructed by the administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, designed to create a separate corridor for vehicles and the Red Line train. The overpass bridge located in Mushin is part of the Lagos Rail Mass Transit Red Line project to ensure easy, safe and smooth movement of the train and vehicles along the Red Line corridor. The 37-kilometer road project undertaken by the Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority is part of the state government's intermodal transportation initiative that will make commuting a lot easier.
We're giving 5 of them to do, but the 5th one had already been built, the Agege Pensinima Overpass. We couldn't have done this without the support of the community, and we thank you.
Governor Sanwo-Olu says the road infrastructure will change the face of Mushin and also bring relief to motorists connecting Agege Motor Road from Onikpan.
We had promised Lagosians that we're going to change the face of rail public transportation in Lagos. But in doing that, we'll also be solving a lot of traffic, transportation, vehicular movement solutions for our citizens. Over time, people used to pass the rail track illegally. Vehicles have lost a lot of tires, they've lost a lot of livelihood just attempting to navigate that. With this infrastructure, all of that has been put behind us.
Yaba, Oyingbo, Ikeja, Agege and Mushin flyovers have been completed and delivered by the Lagos State government to create better connectivity along the Lagos Rail Mass Transit Red Line from Agbado to Oyingbo.
The Young Progressives Party, the African Action Congress and the Labour Party have claimed councillorship seats in the Bayo State local government elections. They defeated candidates of the ruling People's Democratic Party in the state as well as the major opposition party in the state, that's the All Progressives Congress. Our correspondent Hajara Aliyu reports.
Voters trickling into polling units across Bayo State for the state's local government elections. Some polling units experienced the delayed commencement of the exercise due to the late arrival of sensitive materials. Distribution of the materials to polling units started around 10 a.m. in certain areas, while transportation to some polling units proved difficult.
They said we're supposed to be here before 6, 7, and by looking at the situation, we are still here, and they just started distributing the violet papers.
No transport fare. There is no feeding allowance. We are doing things with our hands. They're supposed to give us a little amount of money that we can take the properties to the polling units. But unfortunately, we are very, very disappointed because they didn't give us anything.
Voter turnout was minimal in some locations as the ad hoc staff had little to do. The enthusiasm to vote is low as some chose to participate in recreational activities, taking advantage of the restriction on vehicular movement. Nevertheless, there was adequate security cover and voting proceeded without any incidents. However, the exercise was conducted manually.
There are some sensitive material that's supposed to be given. They were not given. So because of that, I think is enough or is a cogent reason for us to complain.
Electric materials like what? Sensitive materials?
Like rubber stamp, like the ink, because here precisely the chairmanship candidate has to provide money for them to get an ink, which is not supposed to be.
Some of the results are already trickling in, as the Young Progressives Party, the African Action Congress, and the Labour Party claimed councillorship seats in Darizo, Des, and Pogoro local government areas. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
Stanbic IBTC Holdings plc has held the 10th annual Together for a Limb Walk, its flagship corporate social investment initiative that supports children with limb loss. According to the financial institution, Together for a Limb demonstrates its commitment to impacting the lives of the less privileged children in the society.
The 10th edition of the Stanbic IBTC Holdings Together for a Limb begins with a workout session which involves top officials of the company, members of staff, and partner organizations. Participants then embark on a 5-kilometer walk from the Stanbic IBTC Holdings head office on Walter Carrington Crescent, through Ozumbambadiwe Road in Victoria Island, and back to the company's head office. The Together for a Limb initiative, which is a partnership between the financial institution and Ifian Health, preaches a promising and fulfilling future for children with limb loss.
You won't be stranded. At every point in time, we'll be there for you. At every point in time, we'll be willing and ready to bend backwards. At every point in time, even when it comes to you looking for a job, You can come to Stanbic IBTC as interns. You can join us as graduate trainees, and you can go out there to fulfill your dreams and aspirations. Whenever a child loses a limb, somebody is at home to take care of that child. Most times it's the mother. She's not able to go to work. Cool. But when you give that child a leg, and that's what Stanbic IBTs have done from the Together for Learning program, the kid goes to school. Mom gets out of home and goes to work, goes back to the farm, goes to the market. The economic impact of the family is profound.
The wife of the Lagos State Governor, Ibijake Sanwo-Olu, is delighted with the bank's commitment towards supporting people with physical challenges.
It's imperative to know that supporting special children who have experienced limb loss, even though accidents, mismanaged injuries, or congenital issues, birth defects, and providing prosthetic limbs and educational trust funds for them will further assist them in realizing their full potentials and give them a sense of love, a sense of care, and support from the society.
About 136 children have benefited from the program, and Stanbic IBTC Holdings says it remains committed to making the project more impactful.
The Managing Director of the Rural Electrification Agency, Abubakar Aliyu, says bringing development to the rural areas is the only way to stem the tide of rural-urban migration, which has brought many youth to the urban centers, thereby posing a strain on urban infrastructure. Represented by the Executive Director, Rural Electrification Fund, Doris Ubo, at the commissioning of the 40 kilowatts hybrid mini-grid in Gwagwalada, Abuja, Mr. Aliyu promised more of such interventions in the coming months.
Rafin Zurufi is a satellite community in Gwagwalada Area Council of Abuja. The community, which has been without any form of electricity for over 100 years, has finally received a reprieve as the Rural Electrification Agency puts in place a 40 kilowatt solar hybrid mini-grid to cater for small businesses, a health center, and 2 community schools in the area. Following a brief introduction and information about the facility, a representative of the Minister of State for the FCT commissions the project. The stakeholders stressed the importance of the project.
What you should expect is a reasonable tariff for the community to be able to afford it and gradually grow their business. If you give it for free, that means you want this place to collapse because you won't be able to sustain it. And the sustainability plan, like we said earlier on, is to inaugurate a committee called the Rural Electrification Users Society, Cooperative Society, that will be made up of indigenes from this community. They will be trained on how to handle minor maintenance on the panels. They will serve as the first responders to this project. So anything that will come up, they will be the first point of call to report to either the REA, the developer of this project, or even the zonal coordinator office.
If you are following the trend in FCT recently, there are developments ongoing in almost all the area councils. So if this falls within the category that is going to be awarded, or we call it intervention for the area council, this road will also be captured as part of intervention.
We are happy to have the light, and since then we don't have light before, but the existing of this one, the community now are moving, we are expanding more and more so that we enjoy the light.
The agency appeals to the community to ensure that the infrastructure is protected from vandals.
Time now for some business news with Will Ebo.
Thank you, Ayotunde. Welcome to Business News.
Nigeria's FX reserves has decreased by $301.32 million week on week to $36.53 billion as of August the 15th. This decline follows the CBN's intervention through the retail Dutch auction last week. Analysts believe that the Naira may remain pressured in the short term due to limited inflows from the CBN and weak FPI flows. However, the DMO is set to issue a domestic FGN US dollar bond on Monday, August the 19th, with an offer of $500 million. Experts say the successful issuance of the bond will boost the external reserves, supporting the CBN's ability to stabilize the Naira in the medium term. Now, Youth Entrepreneurship and Leadership Academy, YELA, seems determined to expose the young ones to all aspects of empowerment for the future. Consequently, YELA, working with the Nigerian Exchange Group, has facilitated the visits of the 2024 graduates to the trading floor to get a feel of transactions and activities here. After a tour of the trading floor, the students are given tips on investment and living.
There are just certain steps when you're investing. You have to have an established goal. It's very, very important to have an established goal when you invest. What do you want to invest for? You should have a purpose, you get. And there are different instruments. The younger you are, the more, like they usually say, your risk appetite should be higher. But when you get older, you want to minimize your risk, right? And then you should also gather data. And that's the essence of why we are here. If you don't have knowledge, you will not understand investment. That's the truth. You need to have knowledge. You need to understand how does investment work. And this is why NGX, part of what we're doing is to create awareness, how important it is for us to have, investment. Another is that you should evaluate your current position. People like to live above their means. That's the thing. I think you have to be very realistic to try not to live above your means. Say whatever you have at the moment, even if you're a student, I'm sure that your parents, in one way or another, give you pocket money. There are people who they give much more than others, and even if you're working, I'm sure that you have some sort of funds. You try to live according to, your net worth. That's what I would rather say. Yes. And then, implement your plan. Always have a plan. Always have a plan and implement your plan.
And with that, we're checking on how the stock market performed for the week. We saw that it reversed last week's gains as profit-taking activities gained momentum following strong sell-offs in Bois Cement. The all-share index declined by 1.51% week-on-week to close at 97,100 points, with year-to-date return moderating to 29.9%. Similarly, activity levels dropped as trading volume and value declined by 24.1% and 1.4% week-on-week. On the other hand, performance across sectors was mixed following gains in the oil and gas, insurance and consumer goods indexes, while the industrial goods and banking indexes settled lower. Leading with a 33% gain, Alti Briscoe topped the gainers chart for the week, while Qtix PLC led the decline in stocks. The trio of GTCO, Veritas Capital Assurance and Japol Gold top trades by volume. And that's a wrap on business news. It's time for sport news with Terry Kumi in our Abuja studio.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome to Sports News Now. Tension is running high ahead of the UFC 305 match between Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya in Perth, Australia. In a few hours from now, South Africa's du Plessis defends his title against two-time champion Israel Adesanya. Du Plessis is undefeated inside the octagon and recently claimed the belt from Sean Strickland, who dethroned Adesanya in 2023. The two men have met in the ring before, but tonight's match feels more personal and more contentious than ever. To football now, Arne Slot got off to a winning start as Liverpool manager with a 2-0 win at newly promoted Ipswich Town. The Dutchman was left less than impressed by his side's first 45 minutes at Portman Road. However, Liverpool were a different side after the break, as goals from Diogo Jota and Mohamed Salah barely reflected their dominance to get slot off to a perfect start.
First half. But second half, we won more duels, we won more second balls, and we played more balls in behind. Because if the other team take the risk of playing 1v1 and you have the likes of Luis Diaz, Mo Salah and Diogo Jota, then use them, play the balls in behind. That's what we did better the second half, and from there on, gaps opened up, and you could see also how good and well we could play in ball possession.
So I think it was a really positive first half performance, and I think we showed all the ingredients that we're going to need to have a good season this season. Of course, the challenge for us then is that we have to be able to do that for longer. We have to be able to do that for 90 minutes.
In other English Premier League matches, Arsenal defeated Wolves 2-0 with Kai Havertz and Bukayo Saka getting on the score sheet. Elsewhere, Brighton hammered Everton 3-0 at Goodison Park, while 10-man Newcastle held on to beat Southampton 1-0, with Joelinton's goal earning the Magpies all 3 points. Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth settled for a share of the spoils after the game ended 1-1. In the last game of the day, Aston Villa secured a priceless win away from West Ham 2-1. The world number one Iga Swiatek had to work to overcome teenager Mira Andreeva after squeezing out a 4-6, 6-3, 7-5 fight back at the Cincinnati Open. Swiatek is making the most of her first hard-court tournament in nearly 6 months, reaching the semifinals at the Lindner Family Tennis Center for a second straight season, winning in 2 hours and 30 minutes on center court.
She absolutely. It goes long, and Iga Swiatek is into the semi-finals.
Rugby South Africa once again overpowered Australia in the Rugby Championship on Saturday with a 30-12 victory in wet and slippery conditions at Osun Stadium. The two-time reigning World Cup champions scored the game's only 4 tries in front of 58,197 fans, many supporting the Springboks with Perth home to a strong South African community. South Africa made 10 changes after a 33-7 triumph last week in Brisbane and overcame a grittier Wallabies in a ferocious contest with several players forced off with head injuries. And that's it on Sports News. Back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Terry. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukrainian troops are strengthening positions in captured territory in Russia and expanding even further. Ukrainian soldiers are 2 weeks into their incursion in Russia's Kursk region, their deepest since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion more than 2 years ago. Troops are continuing to advance further into Kursk, the force said in its daily report. Moscow has already called the incursion a major provocation and vowed to retaliate with a worthy response. Hamas has described suggestions of progress on an Israel-Gaza ceasefire deal as an illusion after U.S. President Joe Biden said he was feeling optimistic. Following 2 days of U.S.-backed talks in Qatar, President Biden said on Friday, "We are closer than we have ever been." And on Saturday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said Israeli negotiators had expressed cautious optimism about moving towards agreement on a deal. However, a senior Hamas official told the BBC that there had been no progress and mediators were selling illusions. And the main news again. A massive flood today ravaged Jaun local government area of Jigawa State, causing extensive damage and destruction, killing 25 people with over 4,000 others rendered homeless. And former Governor of Osun State, Senator Ebekule Amosu, has asked the federal government to refrain from negotiating with the Chinese firm Zhongshan Fucheng Industrial Investment Company Limited over the seizure of Nigeria's presidential jets. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Have a good night and have a great weekend.